There are a lot of One Piece theories out there, but there's only one theory I am willing to fight and die on a hill for. And if you click this video, you already know what it is. Welcome back everyone to another One Piece discussion video, where today's theory hits very close to home for me because one of the very first videos I made on this channel was discussing the possibility that Blackbeard was Rox D. Xebec. So, without further ado, let's get right into today's threads and theories and see what people also have to say about this subject matter. This guy writes how Rox D. Xebec lives in Blackbeard. We love to hear it, man. The parallels between Blackbeard and Rox have been pointed out numerous times so far, i.e. Blackbeard's ship name, the Saber of Xebec, and many have identified that Blackbeard carries Rox's will into the current era, whatever that will mysteriously was. However, I would like to argue that Blackbeard not only carried Rox's will, but it's something more. I believe Blackbeard carries the actual consciousness of Rox within him due to the effects of the perennial life surgery by the Ope Ope no Mi. Alright, let me just say this real quick. Blackbeard, commented by Marco, has a really weird body. He doesn't sleep, and now he has 2 devil fruits. How is this possible? If Blackbeard simply had multiple personalities, then he still wouldn't be able to have 2 devil fruits because the devil fruit attaches itself to the soul. We see that in Brook's case. And that's the thing, right? If it was another personality, it wouldn't be able to handle another devil fruit. The only way to explain having a second devil fruit is to have 2 souls residing in a single body. And this guy mentions the Ope Ope no Mi being the way that Rox's life has been transferred into Blackbeard's body. And here's the thing, right? Oda mentioned the Ope Ope no Mi having some sort of immortality surgery. And other than Law's childhood, where Doflamingo wanted it for himself and the world government wanting that surgery, it has not been mentioned since. Law has not once mentioned, oh, I'm gonna use the immortality surgery on someone. He has not once stated that. And I feel like it kind of goes against Law's character to willingly give up his life to give somebody else that immortality surgery, unless it's Luffy. But even then, I don't know if Luffy would want that surgery in the first place. So now the real question becomes, why did Oda introduce this surgery if it's not going to be used in the near future? And the only way this would work is if the previous user of the Ope Ope no Mi used the immortality surgery on someone else. Hence Rox D. Xebec, or even Imu-sama if we wanted to go into a different theory as well. So yeah, back to this guy's topic. To understand this, we need to look at the nature of the Ope Ope no Mi and the unique characteristics of Blackbeard. First, let's talk about the Ope Ope no Mi. It's been pointed out that the body switch plotline and Punk Hazard served little purpose beyond humor. However, I wonder if the body switching might clue us in to how the perennial life surgery works. If you caught the recent Reverie on YouTube, there's a point, don't ask me where, when they discuss the exact nature of the perennial life surgery. The consensus seemed to be the surgery added one's own lifespan to the individual being operated on. Let's work on this hypothesis for the moment. If the surgery functions in this way, perhaps it would be similar to what we were seeing in the Punk Hazard arc with the body switching. The surgeon takes his or her own life force and inserts it into the body of the patient. This would effectively add the lifespan of the surgeon to the lifespan of the patient. But it comes with the catch. Now the individual who was operated on has the lifespan and consciousness of the surgeon. It's been theorized that Imu has spanned the centuries as ruler of the world through the use of the Ope Ope no Mi. While it is clear he is out to extinguish lights from the world, he has a soft side, as demonstrated in his gentleness to a butterfly in chapter 908. That's what a funny point, right? Like, oh, he has to be a good guy. He didn't kill a butterfly. Come on, guys. He's definitely good. What if this is not a reflection on his character, but an indicator of some kinder consciousness within him? This would also explain a particularly interesting aspect of Blackbeard. I'm gonna have to stop him right here real quick, because I just gotta say, I don't believe this part of his theory simply because it would make the immortality surgery not really an immortality surgery, because you're only adding your lifespan onto somebody else. So if I were to live, like, let's say 50 years, and I perform this surgery on Imu-sama, instead of him living forever, he would only live an additional 50 years. And not just that, but he would have my consciousness within him. Imu-sama probably lived through the Void Century, and that's why he's the ruler of the world, he rules the world government, yada yada yada, you get the point. if Imusama really did live all those years, and he had this surgery performed onto him around 9 or so different times, that means that Imusama has around 9 different personalities, which would be insane to have. It would not make any sense whatsoever, and it would just be a really weird character overall. And you could say that Oda has made this work before. He has Kaido in his drunken phases, and in every single phase, he's kind of a different person. Yes, but that's only when Kaido's fighting. Imagine having a character with 9 different personalities just walking around in the One Piece world. It would be insane to have. There's too much lore and consciousnesses to have in a single character. Imagine we get to Imusama's backstory, and instead of one backstory, you get like 10 different ones. It just does not make sense, so this part of the theory I do have to disagree with. Alright, so back at it. It has been noted that Blackbeard is unable to sleep well. Perhaps this has to do with another consciousness living within him. Perhaps the consciousness takes control whenever Blackbeard relaxes or loses control. This would also explain his unique ability to have 2 devil fruits. If one has multiple consciousnesses within oneself, perhaps each could be given a devil fruit. Blackbeard is currently 40 years old. The God Valley incident occurred 40 years ago. Many have theorized that Blackbeard is Rox's son, and that's why he's carrying on his will. However, Blackbeard need not be Rox's son in order to have such deep ties to him. Suppose he carries Rox's consciousness within himself, and because of this, he has been forced to adopt his will. 40 years ago, when Rox attacked the world nobles and their slaves, perhaps the Opi Opi no Mi was present. The fruit may have been in transit to Imu-sama to use for an extension of his life. Instead, the fruit was intercepted by Rox for some currently undisclosed reason. Rox ate the fruit and used it to insert his consciousness into a body of a young child present, Marshall D. Teach. Whether he knew of a prophecy of the future time or had no other options at the moment, he chose to hide within a child for a while in order to resume his plans for world domination later. This is how Marshall D. Teach possesses the consciousness and will of Rox. What do you think? Could Rox be living within Teach? Is there a better explanation for Teach's sleeplessness and ability to use multiple devil fruits? Share your thoughts. See, here we go, guys, because this is not the only theory I wanted to check out. I actually have another one and another one. So this says Blackbeard and Rox. We're just going to knock them all out, and then we'll get to talking about it some more and looking at some comments as well. This one says, I believe Whitebeard knew about the Rox-Blackbeard connection, whatever it is, and why he made a specific exemption for Blackbeard killing Thatch and forbid Ace to go after him. We know Whitebeard was under Rox and served on his crew, and we know Whitebeard took Blackbeard in when he was an orphan, so he has essentially known him for most of his life. I think Marco, as a ship doctor, knew the connections as well because it changed his anatomy. We know Marco mentioned Blackbeard has an abnormal body and doesn't sleep. So whatever that connection is, it made Blackbeard dangerous enough for Whitebeard to break his own rule and not send someone after Teach for retribution. Lastly, this connection may be Marco's message to Luffy that he gave to Neko, that way to better prepare him for battle. And now the last theory before we start discussing it, and this is some similarities about Blackbeard's crew. All the speculations that are coming out after chapter 1043 got me thinking about Teach. I wonder what Luffy will be capable of in the future, and how Teach will be able to respond whenever they will meet. I started looking into Teach's crew members, just to look into what they might be capable of. One thing that struck me was the resemblance of 2 of Teach's crew members, Katarina and Avalo, with Big Mom and Kaido, the ex-Rock members. Yo, let me just say this real quick. Everything we just talked about, I already knew. And you can check it out in my previous video, which, might be a little bit factually incorrect at the time now that it's been a year, but when I read this theory right here, when I read this revelation that Katarina and Avalo looked so similar to Big Mom and Kaido, my theory heart exploded. I was so happy more discoveries are being made on the daily, and especially with the latest chapter where we see Luffy potentially being possessed by Joy Boy's consciousness or his will. Then this just leads more credence to the fact that if somebody can do it like Joy Boy, then there is also a chance that Rox could be doing it with Blackbeard. Alright, so now to get into the resemblances. First up, we have Katarina Devon, and you see the long flowing hair, you see the hat, you see the puffy thing right behind her, and then boom, right below that we see Big Mom. Also the hat, also the hair, also the puffy thing, and even almost the same body shape as well. And here's the thing. You could say, oh, they look pretty similar, and that's just a coincidence. But you have to remember, in all of 1,000 chapters of One Piece, Oda is still creating very unique looking characters. So there's no way he would have a lapse in judgment and make two characters look very identical by accident. I feel like this is on purpose. I feel like this is Blackbeard or Rocks saying, hey, we had Big Mom on our crew, now we need someone to carry on her image in our crew as well. So boom, let's get Katarina Devon. Like boom, like that's how it happens. And then down below, we have Avalo Pizarro, and we also have Kaido. And you can see it here. They have the horns, they have the beard, they have the big burly shape. While they don't look 100% similar, you can at least see that they're like an 80% match. Like if Kaido was name brand clothing, Avalo Pizarro would be the dollar store equivalent. While they don't look one-to-one, you could see the similarities between them. Alright, so this guy finishes his revelation by saying, it seems that Teach has the same two members that Xebec got when he was captain. It is speculated that Teach may have inherited Xebec's will and has similar crew members. Is this a clue from Oda? And also, I wonder who will be the doppelganger of Whitebeard. Maybe Burgess. Actually, I have another theory for this. What if the 10th Titanic captain that gets adopted by Blackbeard is actually Weevil, a man that also somewhat resembles Whitebeard? I think that'd be pretty insane, because I don't think Burgess's character really fits up with Whitebeard, and also appearance-wise, it doesn't really fit. And then this guy down below says, I don't know if the parallels have to be so direct, but I think Burgess is interesting because he was shown to be seen as disrespectful towards Blackbeard by not referring to him by titles or something, or being too casual in front of the newer subordinates. I took this to mean we might see Burgess not care so much for the current size and direction of the crew. I like that this guy brings up the fact that Burgess was rude and disrespectful to Blackbeard, because if you're up to date with the manga, then you know that during the flashback we have of Kaido and Big Mom actually mentions, hey, I don't trust Rocks. You should not trust Rocks. He seems like a really bad guy. And this is almost the same portrayal that Burgess is having towards Blackbeard by being disrespectful, saying, hey, like, you know, he's our captain, but he's a kind of weird guy. Like, that's the thing. Rocks and Blackbeard both have subordinates that don't fully trust them, or subordinates that just generally disrespect them. And that's what happens when you bring so many powerhouses under the same roof. And whether or not Blackbeard did that on purpose, we don't know. Whether or not that's Rocks as well, we don't know that yet. And here's the thing. One more thing I have to throw out there is that Blackbeard and Rocks also used the same recruiting method, where they only looked for the strongest pirates. And there's just so many parallels you can draw between Blackbeard, between Rocks, that it's almost insane. Alright, so now time to look at a couple of comments. The first one says, from a logical perspective, I don't understand why Whitebeard wouldn't go after Blackbeard himself, or at least after Ace left. They surely would have easily defeated him at that point, and prevented Ace's death and defeat, which he must have known was quite possible. I like this, because this brings up a good point. Why didn't Whitebeard go after Teach? Whitebeard said, hey, this is the ironclad rule of pirates. You do not kill your Nakama, and that's what Blackbeard did. And Whitebeard went out of his way to fight Blackbeard during Marineford. But it brings up the question as to why didn't Whitebeard go after him sooner? And the reason I think he didn't go after him is because there's some part of Blackbeard that reminded Whitebeard of his former captain Rocks D. Xebec, and that scared him. That scared Whitebeard so much into not wanting to go after him, and also wanting to not send Ace after Blackbeard. This headcanon solution could be disputed by saying, oh, Whitebeard is old, he's sick, he doesn't have the time or energy to go after Blackbeard. But why would he want to stop Ace from going after him as well? That doesn't solve all of the questions here. And that's what I'm saying. Maybe while Blackbeard was on Whitebeard's ship, he showed some traits that Rock used to have when he was alive. Like maybe, oh, like that's weird, Rocks was left-handed, why is Blackbeard left-handed? You know, something small like that, anything to just trigger those memories within Whitebeard. Also, if Rocks' consciousness is within Blackbeard, it would make even more sense as to why Blackbeard chose to hide under Whitebeard's wing. Because while it is understood and known around the world that Whitebeard protects his crew like they're his family, the only person that would know this even more so than just that rumor is Rocks, his former captain. He must have seen Whitebeard and he's like, oh, Whitebeard, all he wants is a family? And then boom, 40 years later, you're like, oh, he actually is doing that. Yeah, sure, why not? I'll hide underneath his giant wing. And then it would also make sense as to why the first fruit that Blackbeard and Rox wanted was Whitebeard's fruit, because they know how destructive it is firsthand, not just in God's Valley, but throughout all those years they were hiding underneath him. Alright, so just 2 more points I want to use to really hammer in the connections between Rox Xebec and Blackbeard. First up is the naming of Blackbeard's ships. He names his ships the Saber of Xebec. And the second point is the fact that Blackbeard is using Beehive as his base of operations. And that is the same base of operations that Rox used when he was alive. And you could say, oh, that's coincidence, you know, maybe he just really likes that lawless land. But what if he's like, oh, this place is like a home to me. I'm familiar with this island, so of course I want to be here. There's a lot of strange connections you can make between them that really isn't explained unless Blackbeard is either 1, a huge fanboy of Rox Xebec, a man he has never met, or 2, he is Rox Xebec. Alright, so now I have a weird third conspiracy theory I just want to throw out there. I don't believe it, but I just looked at it and I thought it was kind of funny. But if you actually flip Rox's picture upside down, you have a black beard. Coincidence? I don't think so. And now with all of that off my chest, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Please consider liking and subbing down below. We have 9,700 subs. We are 300 away from that juicy 10,000 mark, and I could not have done it without you guys. Also, feel free and please show some love to these threads down below. I'm gonna leave links in the description. They have like very little upvotes. They have very little comments in there. That's why I didn't really go through any of them this time around. And yeah, these guys took the time, wrote out some decent things, and I feel like they at least deserve a couple of upvotes. So feel free to show some love to them too. And yes, let me know what you guys think about today's theory. Do you believe that Blackbeard has inherited Rox's will, or do you think he is actually Rox Xebec? And if you're up to date, I said it before, if you're up to date with the latest chapter of One Piece, then you know that there's a small chance that Joy Boy and his consciousness might have taken over Luffy's body. Then that adds more plausibility to the fact that Rox could do that with Blackbeard. So thank you guys so much for watching. See you guys for tomorrow's theory video. Peace out.